y'all feeling? We came all the way from Brooklyn, so I need some Brooklyn energy in the house. How y'all feeling? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. It is a privilege and an honor to have been invited back to Connecting for Change this year. I'm honored to be here with my social justice-based hip-hop theater company, all the way from Brooklyn, Truthworker Theater Company. Our work looks at the many faces of incarceration, interrupting cycles of violence with melodies of hope, and narrating the triumphs and tragedies that go untold. I came to this work many years ago as a teaching artist in New York City public schools, transfer schools, community centers, shelters where kids were shuffled through hallways every day that looked like prisons, on bell systems, fed the same food as inmates in this country, and scanned by metal detectors by officers in full uniform. I looked into the eyes every day of underfunded, budget-cut administrators, teachers, educators who started off with passion and ended up teaching to the test. I witnessed firsthand the over-policing, the criminalization, the dehumanization of so many Black and brown bodies in our communities, and I have committed myself to building stages for young voices to narrate their own stories on their own terms. Last year when I was here, I shared with some of you my personal journey that complicates this work. After a decade of devoting myself to fighting the system by focusing on the youth, on story, on testimony, on healing, I went and did a master's. And in that scholarship, I was looking at trauma, advocacy, and the witness. And I begged for a reconfiguration of what it means to witness, which broken down etymologically means to see and therefore to know. And I asked the question, what happens when we know something that's neither visual nor cognitive, but rather embodied? How then do we testify? I also told you that I came to live firsthand exactly that which I had theorized when a boy, the age of all my students, pressed a gun to my head in the elevator of my building as he raped me, telling me, if you look at me, I'll kill you. If you look at me, I'll kill you. If you look at me, I'll kill you. Exactly that which I had theorized. How then does the body testify? So why is it that I insist on sharing with you a story of my sexual assault? Why, when I was invited to come here with my theater company, am I talking about my own survival, my rape, the earthquake in my life that sent everything falling off the bookshelves? Because I was pressed up against the suffering of a boy who forced me to embody his trauma. And now he's been sentenced to die in our prisons, serving multiple lifetimes, 174.5 years behind bars. And I'm not satisfied. Not because I think he deserves worse, but because I know it won't make things any better. And I don't know the solution. I don't think we've come up with it yet. But I do understand what Angela Davis means when she said that prisons have become a way of disappearing people in the false hope of disappearing the underlying social problems they represent. So let us look at their social problems. Let us look at the ways that the system has hurt people, and then our people hurt each other, because hurt people hurt people. And I also know that open people open people. So I started Truthworker, a place for healing, a place for opening, a place for change makers, for solution-driven citizens of the world, to turn our universe as we know it upside down, because yes is a galaxy. So let's look at the problems we so desperately try to disappear and unearth them. Give them voice. Let us listen and attend. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has taught us that true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice that produces beggars needs restructuring. So let's restructure. We started looking at the structures last year when we developed Barcode, a performative analysis of the school-to-prison pipeline, the work that we had the honor of presenting on the main stage here at Connecting for Change. In it, we traced the history of Willie Lynch and slavery to Trayvon Martin and the epidemic of stop and frisk in our communities. And after developing and performing that work for a year, we realized we're not done. There are more layers to unpeel. We have more questions. We can't start doing a show on teen pregnancy or bullying. What about the impacts and practices of solitary confinement, we asked ourselves? What about the correlation between mental health and incarceration? What about all the juveniles who are put into isolation and we don't know about it? We've been offered the unique and humbling opportunity to work directly with a beautiful, innocent man on death row in San Quentin prison named Jarvis J. Masters, and we've been collaborating with him to develop a new work, which we'll be sharing here tonight at 6:30 in prison. Jarvis has been institutionalized since he was a little boy, before he even got to first grade, and incarcerated since he was a teen. And he spent 22 years in solitary confinement, and he is more free than many of us. We're inspired by his remarkable capacity for liberation spiritually within confinement. So we've been collaborating with him to learn and to grow. And what's taken place has been magical. A triangulation of healing for all of us. A dozen young people directly impacted by the prison industrial complex in this country, in New York City, with loved ones either recently or currently incarcerated, connecting and growing and healing with a man behind bars, some of whom have contacted for the first time their own family members as a result of some of this healing. And Jarvis, who 3,000 miles away is having an impact of so many young people exactly the same age that he was when he was put behind bars. He's now 52. He was 19. He's innocent. And then I'm in between, mediating dialogue, receiving calls from death row on a weekly basis, hearing the sounds of prison in the background, developing a powerful relationship with a man who our justice system has deemed a monster. I've spent hours locked in a cage with him, sharing tears and laughter, anger and hope, testifying, bearing witness, holding space for one another as we grieve our losses and celebrate our lives. My monster will spend almost 200 years behind bars, multiple lifetimes. Jarvis has been sentenced to death, and they are human, beautifully human and flawed, and we are healing. This mirror effect is a gift, being offered the opportunity to witness and work with the traumas in others that I so palpably have experienced in myself, an opportunity to participate in collective liberation, because my freedom is inextricably bound to yours. Dr. King reminds us that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter, and that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So let us stand together. Let us stand with Ferguson, beg for our girls in Nigeria, and listen to the voices that are silenced, and let us tend to the impacts of our actions.
I open my palms to the sky, surrendering to the human hopelessness that it does not despair me. For life needs no more despair, I pray, to turn a situation as bad as mine into an opportunity to be of some benefit, to transcend my present circumstances, to transform everything around me into something almost radiant.
Boom, 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 banging, constant, throbbing, consistent, bang.
bang, my mind, I'll lose it. Broken pieces, shit, I'm bleeding. Silence kills me, noises scare me. Darkness likes me, I don't know me. Can you help me? Hold me, heal me, save me, love me. Please don't leave me. Something sparks inside my mind and everything just dies.
Something sparks inside my mind and everything just dies. Who sharpened the knife?
Who did it?
Who killed that guard?
Who sharpened the knife?
Who did it? Who killed that guard?
Who sharpened the knife?
Who did it? Who killed that guard?
Who sharpened the
Who
knife?
did it? Who killed that guard? Who killed that guard? You have been sentenced to solitary confinement. Systematic policies and conditions of the control and oppression. Using isolation include confinement behind a solid steel door for 23 hours a day.
Limited contact with other human beings.
Infrequent phone calls and rare non-contact family visits. Extremely limited access to rehabilitative and educational programming.
Grossly inadequate medical and mental health treatment.
Physical torture such as hard time,
Restraint sharing.
enforced cell extraction,
Mental torture such as sensory deprivation
Permanent bright lighting at extreme temperature.
enforced insomnia.
and sexual intimidation and violence.
Who sharpened the knife?
Who did it?
Who killed that guard?
Who sharpened the
Who
knife?
did it?
Who killed that
Who
guard?
sharpened the knife?
Who did it?
Who killed that guard?
Who sharpened the
Who
knife?
did it?
Who killed that guard?
Who killed that guard?
Night's bright stars, celebrating life's dreams as peace sits still.
We charred your skin until the sunrise bore the stench of shame and anguish. She can barely bear to look us in the eyes today. We pulled your hair until the rain poured frantically in desperation. She tried to wash away our sins with tears of fury. We broke your bones until the earth quaked angrily along her fault line. She lost her footing in her grief, can hardly hold us on her back, bent over in sorrow. We've circled and stoned you until the seasons refuse to cycle any longer. We've locked you up and buried you behind the bars we built to barricade ourselves from the reflection of our failings. We've tied you up and left you bloodied on a fence until the forest raged with flames. She did her best to sound alarms so we'd come running, lay down our weapons, but breath escaped her trembling lungs and suffocated us. As we lost lifetimes bickering over who should have the right to love our brothers, our daughters, our sons, who should have the right to live, who should have the right to walk in peace alone at night and know they're safe inside their skin. We've gathered in darkness, blind and blackened from the smoke of the raging redwoods, and here we stand. As ice caps melt and water rises, we rehearse confessions, untangle our tongues from the knots of oppression. Internalized, we etch confessions in her sand. We beg forgiveness, washing the casings of bullets to the shore, revealing our crimes, our injustice, our disease, and we are desperate now, fevered and chilled and aching as she retches and hurls from our poison. We have abandoned you, and there is nothing left to do but find the key, unlock our prison, set free our dreams, lay down our weapons, unarm our men. Tasers, tear gas, and dogs have never solved our problems. We must listen to the protesters gathered in our streets of rubbled hearts. Give voice to our children as they sing us their melodies of hope and spell us their echoing truths. We've come undone. And now we must stitch ourselves together from the rubble, the ash, the floods, the fires, and then we tend to the impacts of our post-traumatic, terror-ridden mother. Tend to her trauma. We have battered her with our bigotry, down on our knees, palms to the sky in grief and surrender. We come naked, with the names of all our babies on our breasts whom we've neglected. We beg for the soil. We plead for the sun. We sing for the rain. We beg. We plead. We sing. We beg.